Separatist fighters in the southwest region have been implored to drop their arms and rally with the population of the region to reconstruct the southwest region, badly battered by the Anglophone crisis for over 4 years now. Tonight, we hear from the national coordinator of the presidential plan for the reconstruction and development of the northwest and southwest regions, Paul Tasson, who began his Southwest Lab of his awareness and sensitization tour in Boya today. Preparations ahead of the government common entrance and concours d'entrée and CZM have reached fever pitch as about 2,000 pupils for Class 6 and the Cours Moyen 2 brace up to face the examination tomorrow, June 30. Christelle Asek-Swele will be sizing up the level of preparedness here in Douala. And the Confederation of African Football CAF meets tomorrow to decide the fate of major competitions, the African Cup of Nations as well as the African Nations Championships, all scheduled for Cameroon. These competitions have been affected by the COVID-19 pandemic, and John Paul Samoa will be looking at the stakes of the highly anticipated executive meeting. Good evening and thanks for joining us. You're watching the Primetime Newscast on STV. Just as we told you in the headlines, the national coordinator of the presidential plan for the reconstruction and development of the northwest and southwest regions has called on the population and separatist fighters in particular to drop their arms and contribute in the reconstruction of the region that has been affected by the Anglophone crisis. Paul Tasson made a statement as he began the Southwest Lab of his awareness and sensitization tour to explain the vision of the head of state to the population. Josephine Binzi has more.
That ended last week in the northwest region, Paul Tasson, the presidential coordinator for the reconstruction plan in Cameroon's crisis hit zone, has begun a similar sensitization fashion in the southwest region today in Boya. The region that has been faced with ghost town threats by separatist fighters has once again been schooled on the socio-economic effects of the crisis over the years.
Our homes and personal property. Many of us have been forced to leave our homes to find refuge elsewhere. Our families have been separated. Our communities have been weakened. And the virus of division has maliciously been installed in our society. Even though resilient, and I should say very resilient, before 2016, the economy of our two regions has been severely affected and afflicted.
A sum total of 8.9 billion CFA francs has been made available to cover about 10% of the work, as the reconstruction initiative is not limited to a particular region, tribe, or political party. He reiterates deceit cannot triumph over the truth for a long period of time.
And the only thing that happens is that their suffering gets worse. Tell them that suffering is not and cannot be a way of life. Tell them that even monks feel pain. As soon as they tell them that internally displaced person and refugee is not a permanent status. Tell them that these are conditions that have turned the hardworking people of the two regions into beggars. Tell them that it is unacceptable.
The Heal the Land initiative is expected to stretch through this day till Wednesday as various steps of the reconstruction plan unfolds.
Now, the paramount ruler of the Baforce in Meme Division has called on God Almighty to heal the city of Kumba and Meme Division in general, also affected by the separatist conflict. Meme Divisional administrators, that is municipal as well as administrative authorities, the clergy, Bafor chiefs, as well as the population, all rallied behind their new ruler, Fon Ekoko Mukete the Fourth, to pray for peace and blessings in the land. Oni Ladonet has more.
The paramount chief of the Bafo people, Fon Ekoko Mukete, alongside clan heads, clergymen and some Christian and Muslim faithfuls have called on God to restore peace in Kumba town and the entire Meme division, southwest region of Cameroon. In an ecumenical service held at the Kumba Amusement Park on the 27th of June, the Fon emphasized on the need to give peace a chance so as to foster development and prosperity in Kumba.
I felt that it's a mission I have, and I first of all have to give honor to the Almighty God and make sure that for my people to prosper, this was a secret. And to make it public, I cannot worship God hiding it. It has to be public. And I was able to convince the clergy to unite and convince the authorities to allow this ecumenical service to take place. It became the ultimate opportunity to prove and to go to the Almighty God as we saw, to say, please come, take the land and bring peace to this land, bring prosperity to this land, bring harmony and love to my people. And I believe that it's been done today. And the proof of it is in the manifestation. So let's wait and see.
The service was held under the theme, Peace, Peace and Peace, with the different preachers taking turns to preach how evil had befallen Kumba town ever since the start of the Anglophone crisis in 2016 and the need for the people to be ambassadors of peace and reconciliation. During these intercessory prayers, the Fon Emeritus Senator Victor Mukete III blessed his son Ekoko Mukete, the paramount ruler of Bafo, urging him to rule in the fear of God and in the customs of the people.
This soil that you give to him, and the paramount chief of all the Bafo, we are asking you that authority that you give to him and the wife, let them exercise that authority with their strength and protection in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Now, defense authorities from Cameroon and Equatorial Guinea are meeting in Yaoundé to discuss ways of strengthening relations between the two neighboring countries. Major General Hector Marichuemu, who works at the Defense Staff of Cameroon, and Kandendon Kongongono, the Equatorial Guinean Director of Military Cooperation, today tackled the thorny border crisis, which has put both countries at crossroads for many years now. A bilateral military accord is expected to be sealed at the end of the talks, which last for 2 days. The discussions is holding at the behest of the country's two leaders, that is Paul Biya of Cameroon and President Teodoro Obiangema Mbazogo of Equatorial Guinea. Just to note that Cameroon and Equatorial Guinea have had a frosty relationship for a while now, characterized by harassments of Cameroonians in Equatorial Guinea, as well as a border crisis which has been degenerating for a while now. Honorable Joshua Osi has called on the President of the Republic to take his responsibilities following the decision by Schengen countries of the European Union to shut down their borders to Cameroonian nationals. The move of the European states comes amidst fears of COVID-19. To the Vice President of the Social Democratic Front, SDF, the law on diplomatic reciprocity must be applied. Let's listen to him.
Well, the Schengen took a decision to block holders of Cameroonian passports from entering into the Schengen area for the next 15 days due to measures they have taken to restrict the number of travelers entering into this zone coming from certain countries, of which Cameroon is one of them. And I think what should be done, and should be done immediately by the President of the Republic, is to ban the arrival of Schengen passport holders into Cameroon as well during the next 15 days, to make sure that the sacrosanct principle of diplomatic reciprocity is done. So you cannot be in the system where those who brought the COVID-19 into Cameroon and who created the pandemic, who were the first to come and infect Cameroonians, today decide to open up their boundaries, but to select a few and keep others out of it. So They have the right to choose who they want to get to their countries, but we also have a duty to make sure that if we have no access to their countries, they too should not have an access to Cameroon. That is all I'm asking. I'm asking the President of the Republic to take up these responsibilities and to do that.
Honorable Joshua Nsoesie reacting to the move by Schengen countries of the European Union to shut down their borders to Cameroonian nationals for the next 15 days. Now, on to the second of our lead stories. Over 2,000 pupils of Class 6 and Cours Moyen 2 in the English and French subsystems of the basic education will sit in for the government common entrance as well as the concours d'entrée en sixième examination slated for tomorrow, Tuesday, June 30. In the economic capital Douala, preparations have reached fever pitch as classrooms have been cleaned in line with COVID-19 directives and parents accompany their children to check their names on the roster. Christelle Asexwell assessed the conduct of preparations and now reports.
The ball is set rolling and the clock is ticking. Pupils clustered in small groups and others accompanied by their parents is the scenario witnessed this morning, June 29, at the Government High School Aqua Douala, at the eve of the entrance examination into Form 1 and Sixième of the Anglophones and Francophone subsystem of education, respectively. These parents and pupils came out to consult the examination list at the center to ensure that the candidates' names are not missing out. This to avoid the commotion that is generally observed on the D-Day. I am here to consult the list of candidates to look for my son's name, who will sit for the examinations tomorrow. I have seen his name and everything is okay. On the part of the school authorities, the conditions have been put in place to ensure a smooth running of the exams. Classrooms have been disinfected, candidate sitting positions have been arranged with each person's number inscribed on the desk.
The classes have been disinfected and they are well organized into 24 per class, and they are going to be sitting in a Z form to respect the distances of at least 1.5 meters.
In total, 685 pupils are registered in the center for the written part of the exams. The school has also laid out protocols prescribed by the government to fight against the spread of the coronavirus to protect both teachers and pupils. This is the first time the Ministry of Basic Education is organizing examinations within such context. The ball is firmly in the court of the pupils as the school authorities and teachers have played their own part. We have been advised by our teachers not to be frightened in front of our scripts. We should be confident as the exam is not very difficult. We should remain brave and think well before answering any questions. The entrance examination will kick off tomorrow, June 30 at exactly 8 a.m. prompt. However, candidates are reminded to be present at their various centers as from 6:30 a.m. for roll calls and verifications of candidates' information.
Now, Cameroon has received a consignment of medications from the United Nations Children Emergency Fund, UNICEF. The assistance comprise vaccines for yellow fever, tuberculosis, as well as polio. They were brought in through the Yaoundé Nsimalen airport. That was yesterday. Health authorities in the country have appreciated the assistance, saying that it will help boost the country's response to yellow fever, tuberculosis, and polio, 3 sensitive diseases. 80 bags of Indian hemp have been destroyed at the Texaco Aeroport neighborhood in the Douala 2 municipality here in the economic capital Douala. This follows an operation led by the Gendarmerie Legion Command of the Littoral region last month. As we hear in the following report, it is aimed at fighting drug abuse in the society.
About 581.28 kilograms of Indian hemp has been destroyed by the Gendarmerie Legion in Douala. The operation dates back to May 11, 2020, after authorities had received first-hand information on the existence and sales of Indian hemp at Quartier Texaco around the airport. The informant released reliable information, which also paved the way for those in charge to trick the dealer, who became flattered by the buying price and later fell into the hands of authorities. Veshi Thomas and Babe Michael Baye were apprehended under the instruction of the Legion commander, who after questioning discovered it is a wide network from the northwest which is unauthorized. The law of Cameroon prohibits the sale, consumption and cultivation of Indian hemp, as according to the 2018 National Statistics of Anti-Drugs, Douala is the highest breeding ground of this illegal herb with over 28,000 users, followed by Yaoundé and the North region. This has been part of government strategy to combat lawlessness and crime in urban cities in Cameroon. Authorities are thereby more determined to fish out all culprits in association with this.
It has been a long and difficult night for some inhabitants of the economic capital Douala, especially those living in marshy areas, as flood waters rose in some parts of the city caused by heavy rains over the night. The situation at the Valley Besenge neighborhoods in the city remains preoccupying, and our reporter Ladonette Oni was there and now brings back this report.
This is the reality of the drainage systems at Valley Besenge, a locality in the Douala 1 municipality, during rainy days. With just 30 minutes of continuous rainfall, the whole neighborhood is engulfed with water. Visiting the area this morning, 29th June, the different waste brought in by the flood couldn't go unnoticed.
When it rains here, only 30 minutes after raining, during raining, this is the level of water. Water reaches this level here. So even to cross on this bridge is unpracticable. And we are stuck into our house and nobody goes out until the rain gets finished and water flows down. So we have a very major problem in this quarter because of the rainy season. And when we look at the drainage system, it's not deep enough to contain the amount of water that flows. You know, this is the last stream that gets to River Wuri. So it was supposed to be docked around 10 meters so that it can contain the amount of water coming through this place.
Inhabitants of this area have blamed the overflowing on poor construction of the drainage system.
Oh, the problem is that the work was not well done. The coordination was not well coordinated, because when you see it was supposed to be slopey, but now when the drainage system is almost level, so water seems not to be flowing. And the major point that we have here is that at the level of the seaport there are some companies that have been constructed on the drainage system. So to effectuate an effective flow of water here, we are supposed to block those companies so that water can flow. But now that it seems like they are paying a lot of money to the government for taxing, now the government seems to be very careless to block the company. So it makes it very difficult for water to flow to the River Wuri. And now water comes back to the quarter. When there's a blockage there, the water retreats back to us.
The runoff, which is now a playground for children, constitutes a major threat to them and the neighborhood as a whole.
On our health page tonight, our special focus is on diabetes, which remains a public health concern. Patients suffering from the disease have been advised to avoid foods with lots of sugar in order not to face health complications in the future. John Paul Sama met a nutritionist who describes a diabetes diet as a healthy eating plan, rich in nutrients and low in fats and calories. His report.
The symptoms of diabetes are vast and vary with some individuals, as each type has unique symptoms.
De sensations au niveau des membres, au niveau des mains, au niveau des pieds.
They might lose feelings at the level of their hands, feet, and there are also few diabetes patients who lose their capacity to see clearly and are obliged to wear eyeglasses. There are also cases of hypertension.
Et aussi des cas où le sang devient trop lourd.
Nutritionists say diabetes patients should indulge in good nutritional practices that will reduce the risk of further complications they could encounter along the line in a bid to regulate their sugar level.
Et le premier élément, c'est le contrôle.
They should control the level of sugar in their blood. It is extremely important to have a balanced diet which balances the level of sugar and mucus in the blood. Basically, most rice is good for them. We also have rich protein food like fish, meat, beans, and also fruits with a low level of sugar and glucose. It would be nice as well as green vegetables, which should also dominate the feeding habit of diabetes patients.
Sont extrêmement importants et devraient dominer l'alimentation des diabétiques.
Diabetes is a metabolic disease that causes high blood sugar and can be hereditary. The complications of this disease, health experts say, can effectively be managed with medication and lifestyle change.
Of the country, polls show that U.S. President Donald Trump is losing support amongst older Americans who helped the Republicans win the presidential elections 4 years ago in 2016. The recent polling is viewed by pundits as good news for his Democrat challenger, Joe Biden. More with the VOA.
Touting his efforts to help older Americans, President Donald Trump announced a cap on insulin prices at a White House event in May.
That's a big deal. Participating plans will cap costs at just $35 a month.
In battleground U.S. states such as Florida and Arizona, seniors are a large part of the electorate, says former Democratic mayor of Tucson, Thomas Volge.
But even more importantly, people over 65 tend to turn out in larger numbers than any other group. So in that sense, it's not only the percentage of the public, but also the intensity with which they are likely to vote.
Polls have long shown that voters generally approve of Trump's handling of the economy. But civil disturbances, questions of racial justice, and the COVID-19 pandemic have contributed to a surge in the polls for Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden. Trump is trailing Biden among seniors slightly in one poll and by at least 8 points in 2 other surveys. The White House has called some recent polls misleading, but a pollster says there's a trend.
He is not moving in the right direction, and you're looking at the clock ticking right now toward November.
Many seniors have made their decision, including this voter in Nebraska.
I want a president who cares more about the people who reside here than himself, his businesses, his money, and winning an election.
But other seniors are supporting the president.
I'm not agree 100% on what Trump has been doing, but he did, maybe not everything was right, but he just emphasized, and he's the only politician so far I know, what he say during his campaign, he just execute his promise.
One New Yorker says he's looking for integrity and will vote for former Vice President Biden.
I think the man there right now has no clue what he's doing. It's whatever he comes up with in the morning.
Another senior and Trump supporter says Biden is not up to the job.
I think that he doesn't really.
Let's talk sports. The Confederation of African Football, CAF, will tomorrow, June 30, decide the fate of the 2020 African Nations Championships as well as the 2021 African Cup of Nations, all programs for Cameroon. This will be in an executive committee meeting as officials reflect on the fate of African football that has been badly affected by COVID-19. John Paul Sama with the stakes of the meeting.
Cameroon will be at the center of discussions this Tuesday, June 30th, as the Confederation of African Football holds its executive committee meeting to decide the fate of the upcoming competitions and the way forward for the Confederation during this period of the COVID-19. The postponement of the African Nations Championship that was to take place in the country will be on the menu, as a definite date could come up following its postponement in March. CHAN 2020 was scheduled to be played in Cameroon in the month of April, but the COVID-19 pandemic happened. The final of the CAF Champions League, which was to open the newly constructed Japoma Stadium, will also come under review, as possible resumption dates of interclub competitions will be looked into. The biggest point of focus could probably be the 2021 African Cup of Nations, which is scheduled for January in some major towns in Cameroon. Before the coronavirus, 3 qualifying games had already been played, with the fate of the competition hanging in the balance after the continent's football governing body has failed to pronounce on the matter. On ground, the country is still carrying out works on some sporting infrastructures, with most completed and ready for the opening whistle, but for the Olembe Stadium in Yaoundé, which is still undergoing some heavy construction works. Female football clubs like Louvre's Minprofs, FAP, Our Girls in the Female League could also be impacted by this executive meeting, as the Confederation of African Football plans to create the Women's Champions League. Some light could finally be thrown on the fate of all these competitions, as Cameroon, Africa and the key actors of the game patiently wait for the return of football in the continent.
And that does it for the Primetime Newscast on STV. Thank you very much for watching. More news comes up at 8 p.m. in the French language with Oriane Duncan. From the entire team in Douala, have a good night.